What if the person you trust with your most intimate thoughts online isn't who they claim to be? What if behind sweet words and romantic confessions lies a double life, deception, and a dangerous game? This is a story about love that began with a single click but led to betrayal, intrigue, and a real fight for oneself. Are you ready to find out what's hiding on the other side of the screen? Then listen. Double life. Darcy always considered herself a rational person. She worked as an analyst at a large New York firm, lived in a cozy apartment in Brooklyn, and rarely allowed herself to act on impulse. But one cold November evening, as rain drizzled outside and the apartment smelled of freshly brewed coffee, she registered on a dating site for the first time. Her friend Lena had been urging her for ages. You just don't give yourself a chance. Everyone meets online these days. Darcy was skeptical about virtual dating, but loneliness was becoming more and more tangible. She created a profile and uploaded a photo of herself in a business suit with a gentle smile. The first messages were banal. Hi, how are you? What are your hobbies? Darcy replied politely but without enthusiasm. Everything changed when she received a message from someone named Victor. His messages were witty, his questions unexpected. He didn't ask about her job or hobbies, but wanted to know how she felt walking through the city at night, or what scent reminded her of childhood. Darcy found herself waiting for his messages. She started checking the site more often, hoping to see a new note from him. Their correspondence quickly grew into something more. They shared memories, dreams, fears. Victor was mysterious. He never posted photos, never talked about his job. But his words were so vivid that Darcy felt she'd known him her whole life. One day Victor suggested they meet. Darcy hesitated but agreed. They arranged to meet at a small cafe in Greenwich Village. That evening Darcy spent ages choosing a dress, nervous as a schoolgirl. But Victor never showed up. He didn't send a word of explanation. Darcy waited until the cafe closed, then for several more days, only silence in the chat. She felt deceived and angry, but couldn't get him out of her head. 2 weeks passed. Darcy had almost come to terms with it when she received a new message. But it wasn't from Victor. It was from a man named Jack. His profile was ordinary, but his messages felt sincere. Darcy decided to give him a chance. Jack was the complete opposite of Victor. His messages were simple but caring. He didn't try to be mysterious or play with words. He just asked how her day was, if she was tired at work, if she was cold on her way home. At first, Darcy replied curtly, but gradually she began to open up. She told him about her small joys and disappointments, how she loved walking through the city in autumn, how she sometimes feared being alone. A week later, Jack suggested they meet. This time, Darcy wasn't nervous. She didn't expect anything special. They met at a coffee shop near the subway. Jack was taller than in his photos, with gentle eyes and a slightly shy smile. He didn't talk much but listened attentively. Darcy felt calm and almost safe with him. After the meeting, she didn't rush home. The evening was warm and she wandered the streets, thinking about how strange life was. When you wait for a miracle, it never comes, but when you expect nothing, someone appears who can change everything. That night, Darcy slept peacefully for the first time in a long while. The next morning, Darcy woke up in a good mood, with pleasant memories of her meeting with Jack. She picked up her phone to text him, and suddenly saw a message from Victor. It was short. Darcy, I'm sorry. I couldn't come. It wasn't about you. If you want, I'll explain. If not, I understand. Darcy reread the message over and over. She felt a strange mix of hurt, relief, anger, and hope. She didn't know how to respond. All day she thought about Victor, compared him to Jack, tried to figure out who was closer to her heart. That evening, she finally wrote to Victor. "I want to know the truth. Why didn't you come?" The reply came quickly. "I'm not who I say I am. I can't meet you. But I didn't lie about my feelings." Darcy felt her insides tighten. She didn't know what to do. On one hand, there was Jack, with whom everything was simple and clear. On the other, Victor, who was a mystery, attractive and dangerous. A few days passed. Darcy continued seeing Jack, but thoughts of Victor wouldn't let her go. She started noticing strange things. Sometimes it seemed like someone was watching her, following her. She blamed it on stress, but the anxiety didn't go away. One evening, as Darcy was heading home, she got a call from an unknown number. "Darcy," a familiar voice said. "It's Victor. How did you get my number?" She asked, trying to hide her anxiety. "I can't explain. Just trust me. I don't want to hurt you. But you need to be careful." The call ended. Darcy stood on the dark street, clutching her phone. Her heart was pounding. She didn't know what to do. Tell Jack? Go to the police? Or just try to forget it all? Darcy decided not to tell Jack about the call for now, but to keep an eye on things. Still, the anxiety wouldn't leave her. She started looking over her shoulder more often, checking if anyone was following her, even changed her route to work. In the evenings, she locked all the windows and doors, and kept her phone on silent to avoid unexpected calls. In her chats with Jack, she was the same attentive kind, but now there was a certain distance in her words. Jack sensed it but didn't ask questions. He just stayed by her side, invited her for walks, brought coffee to her office, sometimes left little notes at her door wishing her a good day. One evening, as Darcy was coming home, she noticed a man in a dark jacket standing by her building. He stood in the shadows, his face hidden. Darcy quickened her pace, but the man didn't move. She walked past, trying not to look at him, and only when she reached her floor did she dare peek out the window. The man was still there. That night, Darcy couldn't sleep. She thought about Victor, his strange warnings, the fact that he wasn't who he claimed to be. She remembered that he never showed his face, never told her anything concrete about himself. Who was he really? And who was watching her? Why? The next day, Darcy decided to act. She wrote to Victor, "I'm tired of mysteries. If you don't explain, I won't talk to you anymore." The reply came an hour later. "Meet me tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the old theater on 5th Avenue. I'll tell you everything." Darcy thought long and hard about whether to go. She knew it could be dangerous, but curiosity and the desire to know the truth were stronger than fear. At the appointed time, she arrived at the theater. Victor was waiting by the entrance, wearing a dark jacket with the hood up, his face hidden in shadow. "You came," he said quietly. "I want the truth," Darcy replied. Victor pulled back his hood. Darcy saw a face she already knew well. It was Jack. She gasped. "Is this some kind of joke?" She whispered. "I'm sorry," said Jack. "Victor, I never meant to deceive you. I just didn't know how to tell you the truth." Darcy stood there, speechless, her heart pounding. All this time you were playing with me," she whispered. "It wasn't a game," Jack said softly. "Then why?" Darcy's voice was full of pain and anger. Jack looked down. "I saw you on the site and realized I couldn't interest you as just Jack. You always chose the mysterious, complicated ones. I created Victor to get closer to you, to make you open up. But then it went too far. I never thought you'd fall in love. You lied to me every day." Darcy interrupted. "You used me like a toy." Jack stepped closer, but Darcy stepped back. "I never wanted to hurt you. I really did fall in love with you, as Jack and as Victor." "That's not love," Darcy said coldly. "That's betrayal." She turned and walked away, not looking back. Her chest felt empty. She felt deceived, used, but most of all lost. Days passed. Darcy didn't answer Jack's calls or messages. She tried to forget everything that had happened, but the memories wouldn't let go. She started logging onto the dating site again. Not to find someone, but to convince herself it hadn't all been a dream. One day she got a message from a new user, Alex. His messages were short, but there was a strange awareness in them. He knew she liked cinnamon coffee, that she was afraid of the dark, that she had a habit of rereading old letters. Darcy grew wary. "Who are you?" she asked in the chat. "Someone who knows what it's like to live a double life," Alex replied. Darcy felt a chill run down her spine. "I'm so tired of all these lies and constant games," she thought. Darcy couldn't figure out who was behind the username, Alex. She checked the profile. No photos, just a single line in the description. "All secrets come to light." She tried to ignore his messages, but Alex wrote every evening, as if he knew exactly when she was most vulnerable. Gradually, their correspondence turned into a cat-and-mouse game. Alex asked questions only someone close to her could know the answers to. Darcy began to suspect it was Jack again, hiding behind a new mask. But the style was different, colder, more calculated, even harsh. One day, Alex sent her a photo, a shot of her apartment building taken from the street. "Are you following me?" she typed, barely able to keep her hands from shaking. "I just want to make sure you're safe," he replied. Darcy decided to reach out to her friend Lena. She told her everything. About Victor, Jack, the strange messages, and the photos. Lena was shocked but promised to help. Together they set out to find out who Alex really was. Lena was an IT specialist and knew how to dig for information online. She dove into the investigation with enthusiasm. After a couple of days, she brought news. "This Alex uses a VPN and anonymous email services. But I found something interesting. His messages always come from the same neighborhood in the city." Darcy felt a chill inside. "It could be anyone. Or someone who lives nearby," Lena pointed out. That night, Darcy couldn't sleep. She replayed all her walks, all the glances from strangers, all the odd coincidences. It really did feel like someone was watching her. The next day, Alex sent a new message. "You don't trust me, but I can prove I mean you no harm. Meet me tomorrow in the park, by the old oak tree. I'll tell you the truth." Darcy hesitated, but Lena insisted. "I'll go with you. I'll stay nearby, and if anything happens, I'll call the police right away." Darcy arrived at the park a little early. Her heart was pounding, her palms sweaty with nerves. Lena stood not far away, pretending to talk on the phone. The park was quiet, only the wind rustling through the trees. Suddenly, a man in a dark coat and sunglasses stepped out from behind the oak. He stopped a few steps from Darcy. "Are you Alex?" she asked, trying to sound confident. "Yes," he answered in a low voice. "But that's not my real name." He took off his glasses. Darcy froze. Standing before her was her ex-husband, Oliver. "You?" She could barely believe her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Oliver gave a sad smile. I wanted to make sure you were okay. After our divorce, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I saw how you were changing, how you were searching for someone online. I wanted to protect you, but I didn't know how to approach you. So I created this persona. Darcy felt a swirl of emotions inside. Anger, hurt, relief, and even a touch of gratitude. You were watching me? She asked. I was just keeping an eye on you. I saw how much you were hurting. I wanted you to know not all men lie. At that moment, Lena approached. She saw Oliver and understood everything without a word. You could have just talked to her, she said sternly. Oliver nodded. I know. I'm sorry, Darcy. After the meeting, Darcy couldn't calm down for a long time. She realized that all the men in her life, Jack, Victor, Alex, were just reflections of her own fears and hopes. She had let them play with her feelings because she was afraid of being alone. That evening, she received a message from Jack. I can't forget you. Give me another chance. Darcy didn't reply right away. She stepped out onto the balcony, breathed in the cool air, and suddenly felt free for the first time in a long while. She no longer wanted to be a victim of someone else's games. She wanted to live her own life. And Darcy made a decision not to answer Jack. She deleted his number, blocked all his profiles on the dating site, and even deleted her own account. For the first time in ages, she felt calm and relieved. A few days later, Darcy decided to take a vacation and leave the city. She went to a small coastal town where no one knew her. There, she spent a lot of time walking along the boardwalk, listening to the sound of the waves, and for the first time in a long time, allowed herself not to think about the past or the future. One evening, sitting in a seaside cafe, she met a man named Andrew. He was a photographer in town for a few days on a work assignment. They started talking, and for the first time in a long while, Darcy laughed sincerely without tension or fear. Andrew didn't ask about her past, didn't try to seem better than he was. He was simply there, listening, sharing stories about his travels, and showing her funny photos. Darcy felt that with him, she could just be herself. A few days later, Andrew invited Darcy to join him on a photo shoot in a neighboring town. She agreed without hesitation. On the road, they talked a lot, joked, listened to music. Darcy realized that, for the first time in a long time, she wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop, wasn't searching for hidden meaning in every word. That evening, as they drove back, Andrew suddenly said, You know, I rarely meet people I just want to be around. You're amazing. Thank you for this day. Darcy smiled. She felt that the past was finally behind her. A week after returning to New York, Darcy received a call from Lena. Have you seen the news? Lena asked, her voice anxious. No, what happened? Oliver's been arrested. Turns out, he was involved in some kind of scam with fake accounts and blackmailing women on dating sites. My ex-husband, Darcy whispered in disbelief. Darcy couldn't believe her ears. Oliver had always seemed reserved, but never malicious. She remembered their conversation in the park, his strange concern and surveillance. Was it all part of some twisted game? That same evening, she received an anonymous message. You're next. A chill ran down Darcy's spine. She immediately called Lena, who insisted Darcy go to the police. The police took her seriously. It turned out Oliver really was part of a group that used dating sites to extract personal information from women and then blackmail them. Darcy was on the list of potential victims, but thankfully, she hadn't fallen into the trap. The detective asked, Are you sure you never shared any personal information with anyone? Darcy remembered her conversations with Victor, Jack, Alex. She realized she'd been on the edge but had stopped just in time. For several days, Darcy lived in constant tension. She was afraid of every call, every message. Andrew supported her from afar, calling every evening, encouraging her, telling her about his photo shoots. The investigation lasted several weeks. Finally, the police informed her that the danger had passed. Oliver and his accomplices had been arrested, and all of Darcy's data was safe. Darcy felt immense relief. She realized she could finally start a new life. She met with Andrew again and told him the whole truth about herself, her past, her fears, and her mistakes. Andrew listened carefully, took her hand, and said, "We all have a past. What matters is what we do with our present." Darcy smiled. She knew she was ready for a new future. Honest, open, and real. Everything finally seemed to be falling into place. Darcy was enjoying life again, making plans with Andrew, meeting up with Lena, and returning to her favorite work. But one evening, just as she was about to go to bed, she received an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "You think it's over?" Attached was a screenshot of her chat with Andrew and a photo taken the day before. Darcy and Andrew sitting together in a cafe. "I'm always watching," was written under the photo. Darcy felt the ground slip from under her feet. She immediately called Andrew. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. They met that night at a 24-hour coffee shop. Andrew was calm, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. "I got the same email," he admitted. "Someone's watching us." Darcy and Andrew went to the police. The detective was brief. "Cases like this aren't rare. It's usually a former acquaintance or a random online stalker. We'll do our best to track down the sender." Darcy felt trapped again. She started noticing strange looks on the subway, unfamiliar cars near her building, suspicious likes on social media. Andrew stayed by her side, but even his support couldn't fully ease her anxiety. One night, she got a call from an unknown number. "You can't hide," a voice whispered. "I know everything about you." Darcy broke down in tears. Andrew held her tightly and promised they would get through this together. The police worked quickly. Within a few days, they informed Darcy. The person behind the emails and calls was Oliver's current girlfriend, who had decided to take revenge on all the women Oliver had been involved with after their divorce. She had hacked his old accounts, found his correspondence with Darcy, and started her own game. Darcy met her at the police station. Her name was Marina. She was a woman with a sharp mind, a strong character, and a painfully developed sense of justice. She had met Oliver on a professional tech forum after a painful breakup, looking more for understanding than for love. Their relationship quickly turned romantic, and soon Marina moved in with him. First, everything was fine. But over time, Marina noticed Oliver wasn't as simple as he seemed. He often stayed late at work, hid his phone, and sometimes disappeared for weekends without explanation. One day, Marina accidentally saw an open chat with Darcy on his laptop. Oliver wasn't just attentive, he was in love. Marina felt something break inside her. She didn't start a fight, but decided to act differently. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, but the realization that Oliver kept playing with other women's feelings, just as he had once played with hers. Using her skills, Marina hacked his old dating and email accounts. She found dozens of conversations, including with Darcy, and realized she wasn't the only victim of his double life. Anger boiled inside her, not just at Oliver, but at the women she believed had ruined her happiness. Marina decided to take revenge. She began sending anonymous emails, forging messages, and wanted each of them to feel the same pain she had. Marina didn't realize how far she'd gone until she found herself in the police station, face to face with Darcy. "I just wanted someone to feel the same pain I did," she said. Darcy looked at her and suddenly understood. The circle had closed. All these masks, lies, double lives, it wasn't just about men, but about women too, about the fear of rejection, the desperate need to be loved at any cost. Darcy felt sorry for Marina, realizing she was just as much a victim as Darcy herself, only she had chosen a different path, a path of revenge. When the detective asked if Darcy wanted to press charges, she hesitated. She remembered how close she herself had come to losing herself in a whirlpool of hurt and betrayal. She looked at Marina and quietly said, "I have no claims against her. I don't want her life to be ruined completely. Let it end here." The detective raised his eyebrows in surprise but nodded. Marina looked up at Darcy. Gratitude and relief flickered in her eyes for the first time in a long while. Darcy left the station with a strange sense of peace. She knew to forgive is to let go not just of another person but of yourself. Months passed. Darcy and Andrew moved to a new city, determined to start fresh. Darcy no longer searched for love online or waited for hidden meanings in every word. She focused on her photography, spent more time outdoors, and found joy in the simple things. Andrew opened a small studio where he taught kids how to shoot and edit videos. Their home was filled with light, laughter, and peace. Sometimes the past would resurface, a dream, a memory, a fleeting moment of doubt. But Darcy was no longer afraid. She knew that everything she had been through had made her stronger, taught her to distinguish real love from illusion, to trust herself, and not to fear being vulnerable. One evening, as she and Andrew walked along the riverbank, he stopped, looked into her eyes, and said, "Thank you for being you. For not giving up, for not closing yourself off, for not losing faith." Darcy smiled and replied, "Thank you for teaching me how to live again." They stood hand in hand, watching the sun slowly set beyond the horizon. Ahead of them was a new life, honest, open, without fear or lies. And Darcy knew now she was truly happy. Darcy's story is just one of thousands that begin on the internet. Online dating can bring happiness, new emotions, and unexpected encounters, but it can also bring pain, disappointment, and even danger. Behind beautiful words and profile pictures often hide not only dreams, but also fears, insecurities, and double lives. It's important to remember, true closeness is built on honesty, trust, and the courage to be yourself, both online and in real life. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more dramatic love stories. Your feedback means a lot and inspires me to create new stories. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.